Welcome back. We're the Brothers Mahoney. I'm Michael.
And I'm James.
And today we are discussing the third and final 2023 14th Doctor's puzzle, which is the Giggle. And we are discussing this now. God knows when this will be online. But we are discussing this on December the 9th, 2023, same day it came out on Disney Plus, at least here in the USA. It's written by Russell T Davies, as have all three of these puzzles. The plot's a bit difficult, mainly because, well, if you see it, you know, bro. The plot I have, and by I have, I mean I didn't write it, I found it online. The giggle of a mysterious puppet is driving the human race insane. When the Doctor discovers the return of the terrifying Toymaker, he faces a fight. He may not win. He does win. Spoilers, but...
Or maybe you could say they win.
Oh, snap. Naturally, this has David Tennant playing for the last time, or is it, the 14th Doctor. We have everyone you might expect coming back, with Catherine Tate playing Donna. Kate Lethbridge-Stewart returns. First time we've seen her since the end of Flux, played by Jemma Redgrave. Shirley Ann Bingham returns as Ruth Madley, who we saw in The Star Beast. And she actually gets a little bit more character here. There's 2 out of 10, but hey, she's here. We also have a few returning faces. Well, this first one may not be a returning face, but we have the Toymaker, Big Shag. We didn't see this coming like a year ago, but hey, it's a Toymaker. And naturally, the Toymaker is somewhat, I would say, for only having one appearance in the actual series, and that story being lost aside from the last episode, I'd say it's pretty well known. Back in the day, during the first Doctor's time, naturally being William Hartnell, there was this last year Toymaker. I forget which story that was, but he indeed met the Toymaker, and I'm sure he had fun times with him. And then lastly, we do have a somewhat surprising, I think, returning face, being Bonnie Langford playing Mal. Now, I had heard that Mal was going to be returning in some capacity, but I honestly wasn't expecting her here. I thought she was going to be returning sometime during Gatwa's time later on.
But I mean, some could say this is a Gatwa's time.
Well, that's a fair point too, because we also have not an insignificant appearance of Kuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. Most episodes like this tend to end with the Doctor, something happened to the Doctor, and him regenerating. You see his face, and he might say something, and then we go on to the next story, wondering, hey, what would this Doctor be like?
Unless you're Time and the Rani.
Well, yeah, well, that is true. But here we have something. We have a decent idea of. I think we have a decent idea of what Gatwa's Doctor would be like, because he gets some significant screen time in like the last 15-ish minutes of this episode.
Yeah, I'd say it was 15 minutes.
But yeah, we can discuss the nature of why that is. But I mean, for an episode like this, it's hard to know where to even start with.
Yeah, we finished the episode about an hour or so ago, and I'm still just ruminating things in my mind about it.
Yeah, trying to take it in, There's a few points. One, I guess jumping to what we were talking about with Mal. Like I said, I knew that Mal, well, I guess I didn't know, but I thought that Mal was going to be coming back in some capacity. And we did see her in The Power of the Doctor. We saw a bunch of people in The Power of the Doctor. But I think she somewhat stood out. She might have gotten dialogue, I actually can't remember.
She probably said something.
But here Mal is working with the unit, and of classic companions, I would have to say I'd probably rank her somewhat low. A lot of classic companions never got a ton of character. They got personality traits, but they never got necessarily a ton of character. And if you know when Mal came on, well, her first appearance would have been, it would be Terror of the Vervoids, which is the third part of Trial of the Time Lord. And it's sort of an awkward onboarding. If
you could say that.
Yeah. If you've seen Trial of the Time Lord, you know that there's never necessarily a real forced meeting of the 6th Doctor and Mal, and most of the time we've seen Mal travel, it's been with McCoy, the 7th Doctor. And she was never a favourite companion of mine. To be fair, she's in a not great season, for one. Well, not only that, but she's in between Perry, who I've grown to appreciate, and Ace, who I've also liked. So she's sort of, compared to those two, she doesn't really quite have at least back in the classic series, she did have quite the personality.
Yeah, but she can scream so shrill that her scream can go into a Doctor Who uncredited.
Well, I guess that's all it takes. And we last saw Mal, at least on TV, in Dragonfire, which was the last story of McCoy's first season. It was also the story that introduced Ace. And Matt maybe already knew. I forget, to be honest, I've only seen Dragonfire once, and it's been a hot minute. But it also had Sabalam Glitz in it. And Glitz is a character who has also previously appeared. He was in The Mysterious Planet, which was the first part of Trial of the Time Lord. I forget why Mal stayed exactly with Glitz. I forget if there's something going on. But
maybe she just wanted to travel with somebody else?
Yeah, maybe she just grew tired of the Doctor and his rejection of carrot juice and wanted to move on. But point being, Mal and Sabal Glitz were last seen in Dragonfire. And Mal actually...
Well, technically we last saw Mal in the Power of the Doctor.
Well, that is true, but she actually name-dropped Sabalam Glitz, which I have to imagine that's one of those references that modern-day watchers might not understand or might not know that much about. And he's a character who only appeared in 2 stories, so I can easily imagine not having seen those stories. It's not like it's during the classic era of Who.
Technically, I think he also appeared a little bit in the Ultimate 4 as well, if I'm not much mistaken. I feel like he was in that Mindscape area.
He may have, but that was something else. But
it really was.
To be fair, this episode had a lot of references, though.
It was great.
Naturally, the main antagonist is the Toymaker, which I don't think it got leaked. I think people just gassed. And they gassed right out those times ago, but played by Neil Patrick Harris. Now, Neil Patrick Harris is an actor I have an appreciation for. I'm not even sure where I know him best from. It might honestly be Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Vlog, which was like a 40-ish minute musical piece released back in, I think, 2008 or so. It's a fantastic, for its low budget, it has a lot of feeling. It might even be where I know him best from, but he's a pretty, obviously he's a very well-known actor. And he comes here playing the Toymaker. And the Toymaker was back in the 60s when he first appeared, played by Michael Gough. God, he probably died back in the 90s.
Well, he played Alfred in the 80s, 90s Batman movies.
And so naturally, he was a well-known face too.
I mean, he was an extremely famous British actor. Actually, Michael Gough died in 2011.
Hey, I tried. But we do see Neil Patrick Harris bringing the Toymaker back to life. He is such a, I was going to say wacky, which might not be the exact word, but he's sort of like a reality warper type guy. He can pretty much make anything happen. He has a lot of accents that he puts on. He briefly uses a French accent, which was in a scene that was released by the BBC a day or so before the episode released. Primarily, he uses this sort of really iffy German accent, which I sort of found amusing throughout. It was
I thought there was an amazing accent. I mean, it was horrible, but it was purposefully horrible. So I don't know. I liked it a lot. It never failed to amuse me.
It's worth mentioning that when this episode opens up, we really didn't quite know where it was going. It opens with 1925 Soho, which is like a neighborhood, a district in London, which is, I guess, well known. Me not being someone who knows much about the UK, I have to take the word for it. But hey, there was a movie last night in Soho. Some good stuff. Opens up 1925 in Soho, and we see this guy buying this hideous puppet from who we know to be the Toymaker. It's just a sort of a random beginning. It's not easy to piece together where that's going to lead into the 14th Doctor coming in, but it also has a nice mysterious vibe to it. A little creepy too, and like we said, classy German accent, so it's all okay.
And I like how he was barely even trying to make it sound like a real accent. I don't know, something just about how he was speaking at the beginning. I mean, really, it's just the same thought when he was using the accent. I just liked it a lot. I thought it was amusing. I thought, just from watching, I think I would assume he really enjoyed this role just for the fun of it. I have no idea if he knows what Doctor Who is, but I think he had fun with it at the very least.
I think he really had a good time. There's a sequence later when he's dancing along. No, I forget the name of the song. It's not a song I knew. But he was dancing along to a song for a good, minute sequence at least. There's a bunch of things going on, a bunch of reality warping things going on. Soldiers trying to shoot him, and roses coming out. In fact, that's where the scene from the trailer released out that time ago with him making like an angel and a bunch of rose petals. That's where that one comes from. But it's a pretty fun sequence. And I definitely think that Neil Patrick Harris had a really good time with this role.
I mean, I'd hope so. You'd always hope the actors enjoy their time in the performances they do, and that's, of course, not always the case. And you can't even always tell just from watching the material, but I would hope he did.
And like we said, the Toymaker hasn't been seen, at least on TV, since the 60s. So it's nice to bring a somewhat, I would say, like I said, somewhat well-known classic Hoover back. It's sort of like when they tried to bring back the Great Intelligence.
They did bring him back.
Well, yeah, but it did particularly seem well realized to me. I mean, I like the idea of bringing the Great Intelligence back. It didn't really feel like bringing back a classic antagonist. Whereas this sort of does. It even does like some brief flashes to the original Toymaker, and in fact, William Hartnell, it's like colorized footage. So that was sort of nice. It's just a brief second, but
yeah, I wish they had spent a bit longer showing those flashes. But I thought it was really nice to see the First Doctor, and of course the original giving the credit he deserves. Plus, maybe you're confused some people who's like, oh, who's this old guy? Not realizing, of course, that it's the First Doctor. But casual fans, I'm sure, will look into it and then become fans of the classic series if they like black and white anyway.
Yeah, and during the confrontation with the Toymaker, at least back in the 20s, there's sort of, I guess, two confrontations when the Doctor tries to figure out exactly why people are going crazy. And I will say, despite the whole promise of the episode, the whole idea of people going crazy and apparently they all think they're right and they're just arguing, fighting this violence and such, and it's all because of this giggle that was implanted on TV screens years and years and decades ago. It doesn't really focus that much on like humanity ending. It's focused more on, I guess, the Doctor trying to stop the Toymaker, which ties into it, but it doesn't really necessarily feel like some dramatic, hey, things are really screwed up right now and we have to try to fix it.
No, it really didn't. I didn't mind that too much this time around. I hated it in the Battle of, what's that called?
Battle of Ransko of Colors.
Thank you, because nobody else is ever going to remember that name. I hated it there because we didn't see anything of humanity in that one. We just saw the planet getting moved, and I don't think that's ever going to come up in the rest of time. Yeah, this one, I mean, we see it at the beginning, and then the Doctor gets taken to unit, which is a very nifty Avengers Tower-esque thing going for it now. And apparently the public, although they also had a tower skyscraper in the power of the Doctor, but maybe it just was a public then. I don't remember the specifics. I think we saw enough of humanity to know, hey, bad things are happening. And there's a nice scene I liked where they have a laser they could use to shoot down a satellite, but Kate doesn't feel she has anyone to get permission from to do it. Now, old school Torchwood would have just shut it down anyway. Look at Harriet Jones, she would have set the laser anyway. I don't think she would have waited for permission. But as an unelected official, I guess Kate doesn't want to go that route, so she looks to the Doctor for permission. And technically speaking, I really don't remember the last time it was brought up. It was one of the things about the Capaldi era I really didn't like. But technically, the Doctor was president of the world. Now, I didn't use that phrase here, and maybe she was just looking to him because he's the Doctor, which is reasonable. But I thought it was a nice little nod to that as well. Again, I think it needs to be nod to, which I didn't like in the slightest. But nonetheless, I think maybe that was what they were going for there.
Yeah, and I think it's also fair, if you're just listening to this and thinking, God, the hell are they talking about? The episode, I wouldn't say it goes all over the place, but there was a decent amount of things they're trying to fit in, and some things I don't even think they really even tried. Like, I'm still not quite sure why Tennant's face came back. And
yeah, Donna's, I guess the last we hear of it is Donna's saying she thinks it's because the Doctor wanted to come home. And
yeah, because I feel like
it could fit in with it how this bringing the Doctor straight to Donna right after it happened.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know if this was a common idea, but I know that James said before, and I tended to agree, that maybe it was just part of like the Toymaker's game, just sort of bringing back a previous face.
That's what I always would have liked. Apparently, that is not to be, sadly.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're trying to fit a decent amount of things in here. Like, they brought back Mal, but they didn't do a ton with her, which, I mean, I can understand. This episode is
very
longer.
Basic.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that things they try to fit in. But it does, I don't want to say it feels all over the place, but it does make it sometimes a bit difficult to, I guess, nail down the different things going on. I did like a lot of the Toymaker's, I guess,
antics.
It's not his realm. Yeah, his antics. Like, when the Doctor is going to investigate the cause of this puppet's Giggle, he goes back to 1925 and runs into the Toymaker, and that's where that one line, again, from the trailer comes from. Oh, but he is recognizing me.
Again, in
Which
that
I always
horrible
enjoyed.
German, which is great.
And that whole sequence is pretty fun. In fact, the Toymaker puts on sort of like a minor puppet show, showcasing to Donna what the Doctor's been up to since he left her, including we see some nice puppets of Amy, Clara, and Bill talking about their untimely demises. And admittedly, I do like the Doctor's defense. Oh, well, she's alive in her last second. I did like the Toymaker's. It looked like he had mild confusion when he mentioned, oh, Clara was killed by a board. But there's more to it. Hashtag face a raven, we know. But I thought it was so funny.
In a lot of ways, honestly, the Toymaker is partially during that sequence where they were back in time in Soho. Reminded me a lot of Pennywise in the newer adaptation of the It book by Stephen King. He just kind of had that really creepy feel to him of being completely omnipresent and omnipotent, because he could do anything he wanted, like completely anything he could do it, and he did basically do it. At one point, and we saw this scene in the trailer as well, there was the sequence where he's holding a doll up by those strings, but he's kind of like a god above a room with no roof. And he just looks so cool in that sequence. Now, he doesn't have the Doctor in his puppet strings, he has somebody else there. But nonetheless, I thought it looked really cool. And I also just really liked when the Doctor realized, oh, it is the Toymaker. And when it came to him, oh, I have to really deal with this again. Which kind of, in some ways, seems to uncanonize some of the books. But that's always kind of been the case anyway, I suppose.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning, and it probably goes without saying, that the Toymaker has appeared in a handful of as toys, like short stories, and a book or two, and as you can imagine, some Big Finish audio. So it's not like he's been forgotten, but that's the type of nature with this type of stuff anyway. So it's certainly not a surprise. The Toymaker certainly was a lot of fun here, and I think other people had fun with him too. He seemed like an enjoyable chap. One thing that people were discussing, and I don't know if this leaked or if, I'm not sure how this came about. I had sort of heard about this before, but this episode introduces the idea of a bi-generation. So when David Tennant's Doctor, the 14th Doctor, sort of gets shot by a laser, instead of just regenerating into Kudigatwa, there's sort of a bi-generation where it's almost like, if I knew science, I'd know the term, like some type of osmosis. Osmosis isn't the right thing, but it's like a cell breaking up of another cell. It's like a body sort of comes out of him, not in a Friday's Revenge type of way. We have David Tennant, and then we have Gatwa coming from him, and then they become two separate entities. And instead of, I guess, perishing, the 14th Doctor is still around, and then we now indeed have the 15th Doctor, Kudigatwa. And I had heard about the idea of a bi-generation. I didn't hear that term before, but the idea that there might be two Doctors. I never much cared for the idea, mainly because I thought it almost sort of devalued Gatwa, like, hey, yeah, you can watch Gatwa, or hey, you can come watch David Tennant. We know what choice a lot of people would probably be making. I do think they handled it decently, at least insofar as like sort of finishing off Tennant's storyline. I don't think Tennant's going to be popping up a lot in Gatwa's time. They left the door open. He called, but I get the sense he's going to go for the nice quiet life, or at least as quiet as he can get.
I get the feeling that what we coach him again, we just won't. It just seems like it's a sounding off point for him. And it's a way to not make fans cry just because it's David Tennant's Doctor dying again, which is something that a lot of people had. I mean, it was extremely emotional the first time it happened. Well, I guess the second time it happened. And maybe we didn't need that quite again. I mean, this episode had so much to fit in. We would have had time, I don't think, for an extremely emotional thing. And we got some emotion with Donna and Mal being right next to him, as it was supposed to have happened. But yeah, then we got the bi-generation instead. And I had to hold these spoilers or these rumors. So it was kind of news to me. I have to agree with Michael. I don't know how much I liked it, but I think it ended up working a little better than I thought it was going to. But I would completely oppose the David Tennant show happening, because that would devalue the fact that Gatwa is now the Doctor. So I'll completely oppose that. And I do know that Russell T Davies kind of wanted to bring back the idea of a Doctor Who universe, kind of like the MCU. And to be fair, he had the Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood way back when he was the showrunner. So he has always liked the idea of an expanded Doctor Who universe, which is reasonable to me, but just don't bring back David Tennant in that universe, because that's not fair to any current Doctor, Gatwa or otherwise.
Yeah, but I think it was handled decently. I sort of like they referenced how two Time Lords by generation was sort of a myth. So they knew about the idea, but they thought, oh, hey, it could never happen. It's just a story. And hey, of course, it happens to the Doctor, but to be fair, the Doctor's not really a Time Lord either. Hey, point being, of course, it would happen to him.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true. Also, and this is it, my idea, I saw this somewhere with my very quick glance at reactions to the episode. But the Doctor does say in this episode that he's afraid. I guess it never confirms it. It might as well have. That he's afraid that it was his whole using a superstition of the odds of the universe we saw in the previous Wild Blue Yonder that opened the way for the Toymaker to come back. And that some people speculate might also be why this bi-generation happened, because it was a Time Lord myth, and with the start of the end of the universe, maybe it also caused something strange to happen there. Also, there's just the Toymaker himself is such a reality warper that his mere presence might cause strange things to happen with things like regeneration. I would have picked that past there as well. Not even him choosing to, because he did seem pretty confused about it. I don't think he liked it. He bit of a little more than he could chew there. But maybe just even his presence is part of what caused it. Maybe it's a confluence of things like that.
Because we got some Gatwa, though, we also got some conversations between, well, I guess the 15th and the 14th Doctor. And through those conversations, and throughout the episode as a whole, I mean, keep in mind this is, 60th anniversary?
Yeah, I mean, these are the 60th anniversaries past, so this is, of course, this is the 60th. Perfectly, but
so you sort of expected to be some type of celebration of the show as a whole, and there was a lot of references in this to previous stories, previous stories, characters, and the like.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to remember all of them because, again, we're doing this right after we've only seen it once. So a lot of what we'll talk about is just what we can remember at the time. But there were references, of course, previously we had talked about Sabalam Glitz, and, of course, the original Celestial Toymaker from the 1960s, which, for the record, neither Michael nor I have listened to yet. We did recently see that they're animating it, and I'm not a fan of the animation, but either way, it would be cool to have that publicly released again, in more than just sound clips. But there were a lot of references. A conversation came about between Cooty's Doctor and, of course, David Tennant, about how the Doctor just goes on and on and on and never takes a day to rest. This had been previously said by Donna earlier in the episode, but Gatwa finally gets through to David Tennant's Doctor that he needs to rest, and in fact maybe he's predestined to rest, because the implication to me seemed to be that Cooty's Doctor, and we'll get into his characterization in a little bit, has already gone through all the things that Tennant's Doctor has. Tennant just needs to go through it himself before he becomes Cooty's Doctor. Kind of like a whole time thing. Did you get the same impression?
Yeah, it's like the 15th Doctor sort of came early. Like, he would always be the regeneration to Tennant, but because of this death, he's sort of like here before his time in a way. I mean, that's sort of how I got it. We should say that they really, I feel like they didn't do the best of jobs explaining it. That's why there's sort of debates about it. Because, I mean, I certainly have some concerns with it myself, but I sort of got the sense that the 15th Doctor, it's sort of like in a, I just get the sense that he's here before he's quote-unquote supposed to be.
Well, see, and I didn't get quite that sense. I'm more thinking that, I mean, I guess it comes to the same thing, but the 15th Doctor, Paul Lotis, seems to be pretty fun laughing. He seems kind of, I don't know, he exudes a lot of positive vibes in a way. I mean, it's strange to talk about. He just seems like he's having a lot more fun with who he is than Tennant sometimes did. I mean, again, Tennant and Matt Smith could obviously have fun, and Capaldi could do what Capaldi did, but I don't know, he just exudes a very different type of energy than the other two did. But anyway, they have this conversation, and it's great because they're both the Doctor. They're just talking about their long history. The Doctor previously said this episode, he's over 1 billion years old. So the whole Christopher Eccleston, oh, I'm 907, that's just out the window now. He is over 1 billion. I think he said billion, right? Or what? It had to have been billion.
Yeah, it was billion.
So, of course, they have a lot of history. Some of the references, I'm not going to get the exact names because my goal was actually able to catch one that I did even catch. I mistook it for something else. But there are references to Legopolis, the Child of a Time Lord, the Key to Time, the Greatest Soul in the Galaxy, and the Daleks' Master Plan, which is, of course, the famous 12-part serial that's almost completely missing from, of course, William Hartnell's time.
Yeah, to be fair, the reference to Dalek's Master Plan was the mention of the name Mavic Chan, and we've never listened to the audio of the Dalek's Master Plan. In fact, do they even have the Faster Force, Steven?
I'm pretty sure we have the audio for that one. We don't have any video.
Yeah, so we haven't watched or listened to any of that. It's one of the things we just haven't experienced yet, like Marco Polo and a handful of other First Doctor stories, or unfortunately Second Doctor stories.
Yeah, we will, in fact, do that in our classic watch of Doctor Who that we're slowly going through. But we just haven't yet.
But I think the only reason I caught that reference was because it relates to something else we haven't got into. But we've been slowly been listening to some Big Finish audios. And this one that I'm really interested in getting to, it's like, I think it's called Doctor Who and the Pirates. But it's a 6th Doctor story, and there's a song that's I need to get the exact...
Oh, that song. Oh, you're right, he is mentioning that song. I forgot that.
And there's a parody of the song "I Am a Very Model of a Modern Major General," which is apparently from the Pirates of Penzance. I'm not some Gilbert and Sullivan guy.
Yeah, well, we're not West Wing laborers here.
yeah, but I do very much enjoy that specific song, and there's a parody in Doctor Who and the Pirates, and it lists a bunch of like antagonists of Doctor Who. We haven't listened to it. I did look through the lyrics. It sounds really catchy. It sounds catchy as hell. That's why I'm so excited about getting to that specific Big Finish release. In listing antagonists, they list Mavic Chan, and like, hey, who's that? And I looked it up and like, oh, hey, it's a Dalek's Master Plan. No wonder they didn't know him. I thought it was a fun reference, and another one like Sabelin Glitz that might be easy to just sort of glaze over.
Yeah, and I thought it had been a reference to the character in The Talons of Wing Chiang, and I don't remember what his name is. Obviously, I got it wrong. But there's a character in that who was like the butcher of the 5 Galaxies. I forget the specifics. I remember really liking that reveal when it happened, but I don't remember the name of the person. Yeah, no, Michael called it at the time and said, hey, no, that's the Daleks' Master Plan. And I think that's an amazing thing. It's a lost 12-part serial that's famous for being the only Doctor Who story that literally took over 3 months to tell. It's not an enormous thing to reference. I mean, technically speaking, they did reference it in The Power of the Daleks, with the Master saying something about the Master's Dalek plan, which is admittedly kind of funny. But you just expect that. And it's gotten to the point, of course, Doctor Who has been around now for over 60 years. It's gotten to the point where all the showrunners are aware of the memes. I'm surprised that they haven't made a reference to somebody wanting a salami sandwich yet, which of course is from the Massive Mandragora, and I think that got big when it was airing on Twitch. Even at the end of this episode, when the Toymaker came back, he mentions that he had challenged God and turned him into a jack-in-the-box. I wonder if that's a reference to something, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a random cool quip. And he also mentioned that he has had a sore-off against the Master. Was it?
Yeah, he played a game with the Master and he trapped him in his gold tooth, apparently.
Which is random, but this is Russell T Davies. So near the end of the episode, we see the Toymaker's gold tooth after the Toymaker was defeated on the ground, in a very awkward position, by the way, because it was on this helipad at the unit building. And we see this woman with... Well, we don't see who the woman is, we just see the hand. But this hand with long, rod fingernails pick up the tooth, like what we saw at the end of Last of the Time Lords. the third season, which is hilarious. And of course, back then, we find out that it was some woman involved in the cult of Saxon. And I think we find that out in the end of time. And that woman died in that one, so it can't be the same woman. Maybe this time it actually is the Rani, because again, it's not like they don't know the memes, and it's not like Davies doesn't know people speculated about it being the Rani. Now, of course, the Rani, I think there might be some rights issues with the Rani because of the creators, but nonetheless, it would be great if it actually was the Rani this time. That would be absolutely hilarious.
I think part of the problem is, rights issues aside, and really I don't know much about that, and by much I mean anything, but I think some people, when they think about the Rani, they just think of it as, hey, a female version of the Master. And I can understand why you might think that, but it also shows that maybe they haven't quite watched either Mark of the Rani or Time in the Rani. When the Rani is really quite a lot different and has a different focus in the Master. In fact, take much interest in the Master's time.
Look, honestly, I know it gets sit on by some people, but the Mark of the Rani is kind of brilliant in the way that it juxtaposes the Rani versus the Master, because the Rani doesn't care at all about the Doctor and being quote-unquote evil like what the Master does. She just wants to do her science, and she just wants to not be disturbed. That's all she wants. She doesn't care about the Doctor. She doesn't care about the endless fights among the cosmos. She just wants to do her work, and the Master actively annoys her because he's so convoluted that's not an hour he's interested in. He just likes annoying the Doctor. It's hilarious. They are completely differently aligned. And it was also kind of cool because during one of the conversations the Doctor has with the Toymaker in this episode, he makes references to, of course, the Master and his gold tooth and the garden of the Jackbox, but also that he didn't want to go against the one who waits, is I believe what he said. And the Doctor asks about that, and the Toymaker's like, oh, well, that's another person's game. And I just like that, because that's a really good way to do setup. And they, of course, did the same exact thing in the Star Beast, where, of course, the Doctor even lampshades it by saying, oh, he hates ominous setup like that, or something to that effect. I think at the very least he says that was ominous. So I thought that was funny that they did the same exact thing here. And I don't know, maybe you'll get to see the one who waits, and later on we hear something about the Toymaker's lead sins. Maybe you'll get to see Gatwa deal with that in his season. Maybe even Gatwa will be around for 12 years and you'll see him deal with it in his 12th season. Who knows?
Specifically speaking about Gatwa, though, like James said, I think he shows a lot of promise. He seems like he has some really good exuberance, like sort of the exuberance level of Matt Smith. And, well, again, like James said, he has a good vibe to him. He passes a vibe check as a kid, probably sad years ago, but they stopped saying recently. I wouldn't know, but he seems like a fun character. He seems like a somewhat easygoing, at least easier going than someone like Tennant. And I can't really put any type of character traits on Whittaker's Doctor, but he does seem like he should be a nice rendition of the character. Yeah, no, he reminded me in the bit we saw of him of kind of a mix between the second Doctor, because the second Doctor was just so exuberant. There's one episode where he just runs into water because he wants to go swimming on the nice lake. And even Jamie and whoever the companion was at the time were like, really, Doctor? But the second Doctor was so exuberant, he was kind of great with that. And he actually reminded me a bit of Sylvester McCoy's first season. And he actually reminded me a bit of Sylvester McCoy in his first season, where, of course, he was written to be kind of goofy, not sinister at all like he was in his last two seasons. And those seasons is so strange watching them back to back, by the way. But the feeling of this Doctor is the feeling of a Doctor who has let go, finally, of all of his build-up depression and rage and anger at the cosmos for all of the stuff he's gone through in the Reviver series. He seems like a Doctor who can finally just be, which is strange because the Doctor's been defined by how they've dealt with things that have come up in the Revival, mostly, of course, the destruction of Gallifrey. That's just been a core factor of the Doctor since 2005, when this show came back. But it looks like this is a Doctor who is just not feeling that every moment of the day. Now, I do wonder how this Doctor's going to deal with serious things, and we saw the trailer to the Christmas special, and as a Christmas special, it looks kind of like a fun story, but nothing quote-unquote serious. But I do wonder how this Doctor's going to handle serious moments.
And I guess we will see coming up in the next season.
And it's also worth mentioning that they did release a trailer for the December, the Christmas episode, Church on Ruby Road, if I recall the title. And it looks sort of fun. Seems like it has a decently strong fantasy vibe to it.
Yeah, something about goblin pirates. About I don't know if it's London, but
well, of course it's London.
Well, I mean, you say of course it's London. It could be any British city. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see how they do the goblin pirates. But I'm intrigued. You can't say it's not interesting. Overall, I'm just looking forward to what Gower's going to bring to the table. Of course, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, especially after bringing Tennant back, which is still a decision that I know some people question. And nonetheless, I'm looking forward to this next season, even if it is going to be only 8 episodes. And that's annoying, but there's not much we can do about that. Yeah, but as for these sponsors with the 14th Doctor, I don't know, it's strange because the vibe for this time has just been a complete whiplash from what we had previously with the sponsors of Jodie Whittaker last year. But at the same time, it also doesn't, honestly, to me, it didn't feel much like what Russell T Davies had done his first time I saw on it either. It felt to me, on the whole, very different from that. I don't know if it was the new effects. I don't know if it was the fact that there's only 3 sponsors, so we've only gotten 3 hours of it. But it just had a very strange feeling for me. I can imagine if you're doing a binge watch of Doctor Who, and you get through the Whittaker sponsors somehow, and then you go to this, it's going to be so tonally different. It's just strange to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I do think I saw some people say this was and I try to limit my exposure to reaction, but I did see some people say this was the least favorite of the 3 sponsors. I actually think it might be my favorite of the 3.
I think it's my second favorite.
Yeah, and that's probably not an uncommon thought either. But I thought the Toymaker was a lot of fun. They probably could have done more with him, but like we said, they had to try to fit a lot of things in this episode. I wish some of the things had been, I don't know, explained a bit better. The bi-generation, exactly why we got David Tennant's face back. Like, yeah, Donna might be right, but it just seems like, oh, hey, we did have a great reason, but let's just give what could have been. I just wish we got something more in the way of an explanation. Like, this is a small thing, but even like the whole coffee thing, it would have made more sense to me if the TARDIS was intentionally screwed over by the Celestial Toymaker, but no, it really was just Donna spilling the coffee. It just seems sort of strange to me. There's nothing wrong with it being the coffee. It seemed like what I thought it was going to go with.
That was my thought as well. And I guess the thing is that I was thinking, and this is my fault, this isn't the fault of Russell T Davies, but I was thinking kind of a flux idea of these sponsors being an overarching connected story. Not obviously the same story, but just being connected in some threads. Now, of course, there was some connection between Wild Blue Yonder and this one, but it didn't have the overarching connection that I was kind of expecting to tie it all in together, with the 14th Doctor being David Tennant again. And that's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, I'm not going to hold this story to standards that probably wasn't aiming for in the first place.
I do think it's a pretty solid episode, though. Despite some things, I think that probably could have been done better. And I have to imagine this is going to be one of those episodes that's going to take some people a while to, I guess, digest.
I think it's going to take me a while to digest.
Yeah, so if it ever sounds like we're sort of just rambling about small things, it just, the whole picture isn't necessarily easy to talk about. But that's just us. Let us know what you thought about this one, and not just this one, but the sponsors as a whole, either here on YouTube or perhaps on Twitter. We naturally do have a Twitter at Brothers Mahoney, and it should be an interesting time moving forward. I am hoping, by the way, on a side note, you mentioned how the next season is going to be 8 episodes. I'm sort of hoping they can stabilize that. Like, if Gatwa's season does decently well, they can maybe move to like 10 episodes and move it back to... The problem is, at least in the US, with it being streaming only, they can do whatever the hell they want, and it's just sort of massive that the format's never going to be like the traditional. And to be fair, for Doctor Who, it's never been traditional, but at least with the revival, it has sort of followed a pattern up to a point.
The first few seasons were 13 episodes, Christmas special. That's how it went. Until Peter Capaldi's time came along, Well, there were, of course, some changes during the 2009 year where there were just 4 sponsors, maybe 5. And then, of course, during Matt Smith's The 7th season, where it was cut in half. But then Capaldi came along, then there was 12 episodes and a Christmas special. Then for Whittaker, it was 10 episodes. I mean, the thing is, and Doctor Who is not the only show that's doing this. Like you were saying, with the advent of streaming, things don't need to be standardized anymore in that type of way. So it can be as many episodes as they feel it needs. With higher production costs, there's likely just not going to be as many episodes as there used to be. And it's just going to be done in a different way. And I just hope that, I don't know, I would hope personally that these 8 episodes are more on an hour. Or at the very least, around the 50-minute mark and not the 43-minute mark. That would at least make up for the little for me in my case.
Yeah, they're just going to go back to serialized. It's going to be a big plot twist.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't even mind that, but I don't think they'll ever do it quite that way.
But yeah, like I said, let us know what you thought about the Giggle and the sponsors as a whole. Certainly, I can imagine it's being more of a controversial episode, but let us know.
I will say it's a better Doctor companion from the classic series reunion than what we saw in Power of the Doctor. Fight me.
I know, I feel like Ace and
that AI program, so really hit it off.
House, yeah. But yeah, let us know what you thought. This has naturally been the Brothers Mahoney. I'm Michael.
And I'm James.
You have yourself a pleasant night.
And we'll see you after Christmas.